Yeah, let's start with your team, Georgia. The Georgia Bulldogs, obviously winning the national title a year ago. Their win total is set at either 10.5 or 11, depending where you look. Obviously, 14-1 a year ago, 8-0 in conference, not including their conference championship game. Ranked first according to F plus a year ago. No surprise there. Number 3 on offense, number 1 on defense. Projected to be number 3 this year per SP plus. Number 3 on offense again, and a little small slip down to number 7 on defense. Obviously to be expected with all the people they lost. Kirby Smart entering his 7th season. And it feels like obviously this is like a new. This is new. We've seen Georgia under Kirby Smart elevate their recruiting. There's always been lots of hope, and now we actually have they have the ring now to back that up.
Yes, this offseason, the only part I'm bummed about is the football coming back. Is that this offseason is now over. This was the greatest offseason of my life. Like I got to permanently troll every fan base, and it was wonderful. There was you couldn't tell me anything because I could just send you the gif of Kirby Smart kissing the trophy, and I won the argument. So okay, yes, we do need to move on from last year. It's sad that it's over. We are ready for football this year. Georgia lost a ton, and if you listen to any, if you watched the draft in April or the combine in March, I guess it was pretty much just a Georgia recruitment video almost. Like that, most of what they did was talk about and rave about these players that are coming out of Georgia, and like there's something to that. Like they had 5 first rounders leave on just the defense. That's pretty incredible. They have a number of first rounders still there though, and I think we need to talk about Jalen Carter, Keely Ringo, possible first rounder, Nolan Smith also probably a first rounder. Jalen Carter is for sure. So the defense in 2022, they're without all the people that we all know about, but I think it's a little disrespectful maybe. Okay, I'm not going to just play the disrespect card here, but Georgia, their defense, people are acting like it's not going to be any good this year, and it was the best we've ever seen. It was a generational defense last year.
Who is acting like that?
No, okay. There are people saying active. Okay, the number's at 10.5, Vince. This number's at 10.5.
Or like 11, yeah.
Well, or 11. I'm just saying that's disrespectful. That's disrespectful. You're going to tell me that Georgia's going to lose 2 games with this schedule? It's a weak schedule. The defense, the offense returned everyone. So pretty much you're just telling me that the defense is going to get not good, like somehow. And like, I guess what I'm saying is that under Kirby Smart, we've never had a bad defense and we still have a lot of studs. Like I'm not seeing where Jalen Carter was the best defensive lineman on the team last year. And 3 of those were first round draft picks, 3 of them. And this he's the best of all of them. So I don't want to get too much into it. I'm going to be taking the over. I don't see how Georgia loses 2 regular season games this year. I don't see it. They could maybe slip up and lose 1. That's a possibility. Maybe people talked about Tennessee as maybe a slip up game, or Mississippi State, possibly go to Mississippi State to play. And maybe you lose 1. I don't think there's any chance they lose 2. I really don't. I think the offense is going to be sneaky good. Like I think they could legitimately be a top 5 offense in every major category by the end of the year. Okay, it's impossible. I'm not going to say it's impossible to repeat as champion. Anyway, sorry, I'm just going to shut up now. I don't want to go too much into this. 10.5 or 11, I'm going over. On to you.
Yeah, I'm with you on the over. Even at like it's heavily juiced to the over. It's like minus 240 or something. That wouldn't scare me at all. I'd still take the over. You set it basically perfectly. I could see a slip up somewhere just because this is college football and that happens all the time.
Sure.
But I don't see 2. Yeah, like obviously you can't write it off as gospel, but there's almost no chance that Georgia loses 2 games this year. I'm taking the over 10.5, not even thinking twice about it. And let's talk a little bit about some of you mentioned some of the defensive players. You mentioned that they basically lost nobody on offense. They did lose a couple running backs, Zamir White and James Cook.
Sure.
They did lose Jermaine Burton to Alabama.
Yep.
But there's lots of other names there. Obviously, you have Stetson Bennett coming back at quarterback. And,
Yeah.
you know, maybe you see a Carson Becker or Brock Vandagriff play a little this year. Who knows? But I'd say the quarterback play is not going to drop off from last year, obviously. The running backs, you still have Kenny McIntosh, you have Kendall Milton. I don't expect to drop off there, really. Maybe
Not
a
at
little
all.
bit of one, but
No.
no. Okay, Kendall Milton might be the best of the four. Is that possible?
Kenny McIntosh is
Okay.
going to be if anyone on this team wins a Heisman, it will be Kenny McIntosh. I think he's going to have a really big year.
Okay.
Kendall Milton a little banged up. You're right. He will also be a big name, probably a future NFL guy. But Kenny McIntosh he's kind of like I think he might have like a DeAndre Swift type year, where Swift just really balls out, and then and he's also doing well for the Lions too. I think he's that kind of running back where he's really good with his hands, really good out of the backfield, but still a extremely good runner in between the tackles. I think he's a complete back, and I think he'll be RB1 for Georgia this year. Now, can we please talk about the tight ends? Like, please, we have to talk about the tight ends. Georgia may play 4 tight ends in one play. Like, they might bring in 4 tight ends. That's a real possibility. You think Brock Bowers, possibly the best tight end in the nation, possibly. Eric Gilbert, a former 5-star, is back with the team. After last year, he took off for personal reasons. He's back, which is, I mean, that's huge. That's a massive get. Darnell Washington, Big O is back as well. So Oscar Delp is the name that no one else has really heard about, I don't think. And
Freshman, correct?
Correct. True freshman. Yep. Just got on campus. He looks like Brock Bowers 2.0. He really does. He can absolutely fly. So I think he would start I'll just say this. Most of these tight ends would be with the unquestioned number 1 on almost any team in America. Georgia just happens to have 4 of them. So that's exciting, man. I can't wait. Like, we're going to run out some package where we're going to bring in 4 tight ends and a running back. Like, sign me up for that. I would love to watch some of that. The offensive line, I think, will be a strength of the team this year. I think they're they didn't have a great year last year, but they were sneaky good. Michigan won the Joe Moore Award for the best line in the nation last year. And you could argue that, well, no, I know you're laughing, but like they were good. Michigan had a really good line.
Sure.
They didn't play well against Georgia. I mean, that was a little different deal there. No one played well against Georgia up front, but with Michigan's offensive line compared to Georgia's offensive line last year, like, I really could have given you a lot of examples as to why Georgia had at least as good of one as Michigan did last year. And they're not really talked about. So, and I think they're returning 3 of them, and they're going to add a 5-star Broderick Jones, probably going to step in at left tackle. So I feel really good about the offensive line this year to kind of pair with those tight ends. I think Georgia will be able to run the ball on a lot of people, and a possible Joe Moore Award candidate is that offensive line for Georgia this year.
So talk about the receivers a little bit. Obviously, you have A.D. Mitchell, Kieris Jackson, Ladd McConkey. Arian Smith, it sounds like he just got hurt. I don't know. Do you have any details on, like, is that long-term? Is that short-term? And then do you look for some other names? I know Marcus Rose and Jack Saint, like, he was kind of a big-time recruit. Like, are there other names that they should be looking at? Because I hear the depth is not great, but it feels like the top end is still pretty good.
Yeah, no, they're going to have a pretty good receiver core. I think maybe it was Athlon. They put out their rankings for every position group. And
Lindy's does. I don't know if I'm assuming Athlon probably does too. Yeah.
Okay. I had seen one preview magazine around this summer where it had actually Georgia ahead of Ohio State for the number 1 receiver group in the nation, which I thought was actually a little surprising. I think Georgia's receivers last year were underrated maybe. Mm-hmm. But they probably did factor the tight ends with the receivers. They probably just counted that all as one group, I'm assuming, right. Which would make more sense. But yeah, no, it's A.D. Mitchell, Ladd McConkey. Those are probably 1 and 2. The Dominic Blaylock, a former 5-star, we kind of forgot about him a little bit, is back with the team after being injured a lot. He struggled. Injuries have really kind of derailed his career to this point. But he is back with the team, and according to Kirby, should be a major factor this fall.
Okay. So on the defense, just a couple questions. I'm assuming Chris Smith will be starting again. Is Tyke Smith now going to be the other starter? Do you think there's a possibility they could be better at safety this year? Obviously, they lost Lewis Seen.
Yep.
Or is it more just you got to maintain basically your level of play?
Yeah, I don't know how you get better, really.
Yeah.
Like after from
Fair.
that, like both safeties played really well. Georgia's problem last year was Keely Ringo being young and
Yeah.
Darion Kendrick being a gambler, pretty much. Like
Sure.
that was most of Georgia's problems, like on defense, and it wasn't much because the safeties played really well. Lewis Seen was a first round pick to the Vikings, and Chris Smith is probably, I mean, he could be the best safety in the SEC this year. Tyke Smith, the transfer in from West Virginia, I mean, he was an All-American at West Virginia. So, I mean, you're adding that. I really haven't heard he's supposed to be starting and playing, but it's very cryptic. Everything with him has been very cryptic. As you mentioned the Aryan Smith injury too. Georgia does a really good job maybe it's a bad job of just keeping everyone in the dark when like you really have no idea. Like they might be hurt, you're not really sure. So that's kind of where we're at with both Aryan Smith and with Tyke Smith. So yeah, I hope he is. I would love for him to be, and just maybe get back to the form that he had when he was with West Virginia. So that would be really big for a Georgia secondary, which is going to get tested a little bit more this year than they were last.
Yeah, well, we know Keely Ringo will be the one starter corner. Is Kamari Lassiter the other guy, or who do you think will step in? And how strong do you think the cornerback play will be for Georgia this year?
So Keely is probably a future first round draft pick. Probably he has all the tangibles. I mean, he's long, he's fast, rangy. And at the other corner position, we're still figuring that out. We're not really sure yet. Kamari Lassiter, you mentioned, could be, maybe he's gotten some buzz. I actually, truthfully, your guess is as good as mine right now. They did bring in a number of 5-star corners. Dalen Everett was one of them. Jaheim Singletary, another one. Which maybe they get a little bit of early playing time. There's also Starks, another 5-star, possible chance he could maybe. He's probably future. Is expected to be more of a future safety than a corner, but he might get a little bit of playing time. I think that other corner spot is probably one of the biggest question marks on the team to this point. I think it's the only thing that's not already figured out where you don't have anyone with experience there. So you're going to be relying on some new guys there. And that's, a little scary. I think Keely Ringo will absolutely take care of his side of the field. Yeah, not so sure about what happens on the other.
Sure. Okay, so we're both on the over for Georgia. Any final thoughts and then before we move on?
No, just 10.5 is disrespectful. That's all I got to say. I mean, with that schedule, though, seriously, with that schedule, like you get Oregon.
Should we talk about the schedule just a little bit?
Okay, sure.
I'll run through it. It's Oregon in Atlanta, Samford, the real Bulldogs. Yeah. They have the Bulldog logo, so they're the real Bulldogs. At South Carolina, Kent State, at Mizzou, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Florida, obviously in Jacksonville, Tennessee, at Mississippi State, at Kentucky, and then Georgia Tech. So there's a few teams in there that feel like they probably had a 20% shot.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a fair way of saying it?
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think the Oregon game, truthfully, it's probably going to be Bo Nix for Oregon. And somehow that just does not scare me at all. Like he's tried before against us and has not had any success. Florida, rebuilding year, first year back. I mean, they will probably be in future years the number 2 team in the East. They will not be the number 2 team in the East this year. Tennessee or Mississippi State, and then Kentucky. That's a 3-week stretch. And you go at Mississippi State and at Kentucky. Somewhere in there, if you do trip up, I think that's got to be where it happens. Either the home game against Tennessee where you just don't really show up, or the away games, Mississippi State or Kentucky. That's probably the only teams that I really see giving them problems. Other than that, I really don't.
You heard it here first. Ashton does not think Vanderbilt can hang with Georgia.
Confirmed. That's confirmed. Yes, they cannot.